Hello and welcome to Label Sessions Presents, the podcast where we talk to the most interesting people about all the things you need to know over the next 100 days, from innovation to business design, tech and culture. I'm Fuzlin Esau, and today we're joined by 4 brand new additions to the Label Sessions roster, as well as Josh Nixon from the Label Sessions team. Hello, everyone. Big welcome to Matt Warman, the strategist who gets tech, politics, and people in one room. Matt is the rare operator who can explain AI to a board, unblock digital policy, and still make it make sense to the public. A former MP and tech editor, he's spent 2 decades turning complex systems into progress that actually sticks. Then hello to Stephen Sidlo, the media innovator who builds the story and the system. Stephen makes sci-fi sound real because he builds the team, the tech, and the traction to back it up. From flying car racing to defense startups, he's the architect behind future brands that break through. And then a big hello to Jennika Kalliala, the strategist brands call when they know it's not working, but they can't quite figure out why. Jennika repositions underperforming brands with precision and pace, aligning global teams around what really matters and delivering commercial lift that sticks. And then finally, a big welcome to Bill Freimuth, the visionary who reinvented the Grammys. Radical reform meets creative cool. Bill transformed the Grammys from old guard institution into a modern cultural force. And he's just getting started, from what it sounds like. Awesome. So our first topic is around big institutions, big organizations, and AI, and harnessing AI to get the benefit. So Coca-Cola, this has been a topic that's been big on our radar over the last few weeks. Coca-Cola made much of the fact that they have generated their Christmas ad with AI. We then found out that slightly over 100 people had been involved in the process, with over 70,000 clips having to be generated. As AI adverts go mainstream and consumers respond to AI services, we often talk about the barriers to adoption of AI from users and regulators. We sometimes talk less about how hard it may be to deploy AI in big enterprises and still get any gains, or at least it always seems to innovate by starting things rather than stopping things. If you're a leader in a big brand or a big government, right now, what do you need to ensure you innovate with AI rather than just adding another thing to your tech stack? And you pull it all the way through.
The hard bit here with all of this stuff is joining the dots, right? It's very rare that an organization, whether they're a government or a business, has got a hole that is perfectly filled by a pre-existing or easily developed AI tool. It's, if you could start with a blank piece of paper, the world would be rather different. So for me, a lot of this stuff is about trying to align everyone who is a part of that process. And sometimes that means consumers or members of the public as well. But very often it means the team internally that is going to have to start thinking of new ways of working. And that is a big, big shift. And it's not a shift that most people have worked with previously up to this point.
Everything around change, innovation, it comes down to the why. So to your point, it's not about adding a new thing to your tech stack. It's understanding why you want to do it. So a bit like when social media came along, or digital marketing as a function, like a lot of companies literally built those functions, or were thinking like, oh, everyone needs to be on TikTok, without thinking, is that our audience? So I think the same way with AI, it's looking at where do you need it to add value? And you start with those small steps. And then you can build it into a bigger function or bring more advanced AI tools into the business. But it's really understanding where you can add value in terms of whether it's time saving or automation or scale, personalization, and then taking it to the next level, rather than thinking of AI as a bigger concept, like how do we just take this idea and plug it into the organization without fully understanding, what it's going to deliver.
Yeah, with our sports that we've deployed in the past, and when we worked with some of these companies like Intel, they use our platform as a way to test what types of AI or autonomous systems that can be used holistically in other industries. So motorsport's a classic example where you have a platform that AI, machine learning or collision avoidance systems can be used not just in road cars, but in aviation as well. And I think a lot of those companies engage with sport or tech, and the tech companies in sport to see how they can deploy it right across, and then make a call whether or not to invest in it further. So, it's more of a holistic look right across.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what's been said so far. What I've been seeing a lot of is sort of a tail wagging the dog situation, where people say, "Oh, AI," and they just sort of throw everything at it, and it, it's really good for some things, and it's really bad for some other things, and I think that if you need to learn you need to learn it. You need to learn its capabilities. You need to learn what it really can do for you, and you at the same time you'll be learning what it can't do for you. Sure, it can build some efficiencies here. It can save some time. Depending on your business, obviously, it can do a little or a lot. But you really need to know your business and the AA capabilities and see where the match is. And otherwise, you're spending actually more time and losing efficiencies by throwing everything at AI.
So one of the things that we've seen is there's been quite a harsh backlash towards Coca-Cola and the AI ad, and then to add to that, finding out that 100 people were involved, 70,000 clips were generated. It feels very it then feels extra wasteful when they could have just gone and done their traditional, very look forward to a holiday season ad. Is that something we should be thinking about, sort of like weighing up the pros and cons in terms of, is it actually efficient, or is it just it seems efficient because we've used the AI?
So I think it's definitely efficient in some ways, right? They wouldn't have done the 70,000 takes of a conventional script, and I appreciate that's not quite what the 70,000 clips are, but you get the gist. I think what's interesting is the backlash hasn't just been about 70,000 clips and workload and all that. It's been about people feeling that maybe AI is a tool to augment human creativity. But I think one of the interesting things is that Coca-Cola clearly hasn't explained very well what they've been using it for. So people think that this is replacing human creative endeavor, even though you scratch the surface and it is mostly just a tool. But I think it for me, what the sort of lesson to take away from it is not, don't use AI to help make films or adverts or whatever. It's make sure that you're going to get a whole load of reactions and understand what that's going to be like and plan ahead.
I completely agree with you, Matt, there. And also, building on what you said there, Fuzlin, I can't get the visual out of my head of, it's essentially the modern day equivalent of, if you put a bunch of monkeys with typewriters, they'll eventually type out Shakespeare. I'm just imagining a lot of techie people that computers just typing out prompts. Like, fuck it, no, that's not what I want. I want a different way. I'm going to do that 70,000 times. Of people typing out prompts. I'm sure it's more complex than that, but I just find that visual sort of hilarious. But yeah, I think it's definitely a great. We'll talk about this in the next topic, I'm sure, but there's been such a big backlash of using AI to enhance film, media, music, advertising. So, but this is the first I'm hearing of it being of a mainstream scale, completely open in terms of we use this entirely. Because there has been films where we got AI to write the script and someone directed it, which was an interesting example, but nothing where it's been wholly generated to this scale anyway.
I think that's a really interesting point, is that not only are people using AI for this stuff, but they're telling everybody that they're using AI. And I guess, I think that that's a marketing thing. I think that they're, it's certainly we're talking about it. I mean, and we're not alone. There are a lot of people talking about this, and I guess, I mean, Coca-Cola's been using CGI for years and never made that big a deal about it. And I just think that AI is such a buzzword now and so much just in the zeitgeist that everybody is like, when they use it, they want to let people know they're using it, or put little sly references to it somewhere, or all of that sort of thing. And I think the novelty is very present right now, and it probably will be for several years to come as it advances. But at some point, it's just going to be there, and we won't be talking about it maybe quite so much.
It's a branding issue, definitely a branding issue with AI, for sure. That's why we use like machine learning just to differentiate ourselves within within technology, just to kind of make sure that we're not AI generated with any of our code or our sport or our content. But yeah, I think there's a huge branding element here with AI, because it's just so vast, and it's it's a minefield.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of builds into the issue, because people don't really know what it means. And when you talk about it, often people aren't even clear of what they mean with it. So obviously it's a huge, vast area. And to your point, Stephen, if it's a branding issue, it's currently got a bad rep, but there are really good ways of using it. And I think, the Coca-Cola example, 100 people to create a huge, Christmas ad, that's probably quite a saving to what they would have normally had with all the agency people, productions, as well as teams, and then doing that across markets. So I think there's, understanding of what is efficiency through AI and what's the output. Because obviously a big part of, the ad in question, that would have been pretty time consuming and tricky to create in other ways. So I think it becomes a topic that, if something has to be done with AI or leverages AI, people get stuck on that notion of AI rather than what it actually does. And like with any new trend, once it becomes more mainstream and more normal, in a couple of years, it's not probably even going to be a discussion point, rather than actually looking at what the output is.
I saw KitKat did, I don't know if anyone's seen this, KitKat did a really beautiful way of showing how to use AI and incorporating their brand so strongly in it, just by after the prompt, like before giving it the prompt, going, take a break or have a break, which is, KitKat slogan. And the accuracy level increased, like it doubled, by just putting in that little, have a break, and then putting in your prompt. And they were able to show that sometimes you need to take a little break, and even the AI needs a little break. And it was just such a great way of blending those two things together. And I think that's such a clever way to say, hey, we're using AI, but we're actually also making it better. So I think there's an argument for being a bit more clever in how you position it. So yeah, that branding could do a bit of an uplift.
Exactly. And I think, like with anything, it comes down to how you brief a certain project, whether it uses AI or creative methods or, traditional teams. It's all about, are you clear on what you wanted to, develop and deliver? So if the brief is good, the end result is good. If it's not, then it doesn't matter what technology or, resources you use, it's not going to be great.